crazy. So let's just talk about where we go from here. Like what is the status of the movement? What does your process look like moving forward to establish your independence?
Okay, so basically, we need a referendum. We either need a referendum that we conduct ourselves as the Cape Independence Movement, or we need a referendum that's granted to us by, get a load of this, not the ANC, but the DA. The DA could give us a referendum on Cape independence tomorrow. And polling has shown that the majority of people in the Western Cape are in favor of a referendum on Cape independence. And there have been polls that have been conducted over the last 5 years or so. And at times where we've had the most political volatility, we've seen those numbers as high as almost 70% being in favor of a referendum on Cape independence, and approximately 60% being in favor of outright independence. So the Constitution of South Africa is structured in such a way that the Premier has the power to call a referendum within his own province. Now, here in the Western Cape, we're not governed by the ANC. We're governed by the Democratic Alliance. So the Democratic Alliance, if they wanted to, could give the Western Cape a referendum, not just on Cape independence, but on a vast range of issues, covering police force, energy, education, housing, etc., etc. So a lot of the issues that we face here, the DA has the power to put forward a referendum. It doesn't necessarily mean they would be binding on the national government, but it would increase the political pressure to such an extent that they could force the ANC to say, okay, fine. We're getting over 200 billion rand in taxes from you guys every single year. It's clear that 90% of your population wants to control their own police force. 90% of your population wants to control your own education. 90% of your population wants to produce your own electricity so your lights don't go out every other week. 90% of your population wants to live in safe streets, which we can't provide as the ANC national government, etc., etc., etc. And we will grant you some reductions in discriminatory policies, and we will allow you greater freedom to determine your own types of policies. Let's just maintain the status quo. The DA could do that. They could do that. They don't even need to call a referendum on Cape independence, but they could address all the issues they talk and shout so loudly about. They have the power to implement it if they just started calling referendums in the Western Cape. Doesn't have to be about Cape independence. However, if the ANC will not negotiate with them in the best interest of us here in the Cape, they then have the power to call a referendum on declaring the Western Cape an independent country. And as our polling has shown, and as other Cape independence groups' polling has shown, we would win that referendum. So the pathway moving forward is either the DA grants the people of the Western Cape the referendum that they want, or we as the Cape Independence Movement are going to have to call a referendum ourselves. And there are legal pathways to do this. And the principles of self-determination are guaranteed in the South African Constitution. The principles of self-determination are guaranteed in the United Nations and African Union charters, which we are signatory to. So there are a number of mechanisms that we could use to implement a referendum here in the Western Cape. And then the other process is obviously what we've been doing for a long time at the Cape Independence Party. We've got 2 seats in government that we're very grateful to our voters for providing us with. And we need voters to, if they aren't happy with the state of politics in the Western Cape, that they need to vote for the Cape Independence Party and put pressure on the Western Cape government to ensure that we do get a referendum on not necessarily just Cape independence, but issues that would decentralize power to our province and would improve the lives of all of our citizens.